Okay, today is Thursday, 9th July 2026, midday, temperature 30 degrees centigrade, which is about 86 degrees Fahrenheit. As I said in my video about 4 weeks ago, I've decided once again to see if I could get my MEDAKA pond working properly. I tried to do this twice before, but on each occasion dragonfly larvae in the pond ate most of the MEDAKA. Now this is my pond. One thing that's changed here a bit. Well, look over here, I used to have a sort of big sort of tree, but the borer insects killed it. You can see I've cut it down and you can see where all the borer insects were tunneling inside and killed the whole tree, which is a shame because that's been there for maybe 25 years or so. Anyway, those things happen. Now I'm going to try to analyse why, having all the MEDAKA disappearing in the pond should be so much of a problem. I know that I've got lots of dragonflies in my area and often see 3 or 4 flying around the pond, but nearly all of them fly away without depositing eggs because they are deterred by the mesh netting I've got stretched about 200 millimeters above the surface of the pond. However, as I've described in some previous videos, I've very occasionally seen a particular type of dragonfly hovering above the netting, making the dipping motion, which is typical of a dragonfly depositing eggs. And then these eggs then fall through the netting to land in the water. I'm not an expert, I know very little about it, but this is quite unusual behaviour because most types of dragonflies deposit their eggs by dipping their rear end into the water and laying the eggs, but the netting prevents them from doing that. So it seems there's only this one particular type of dragonfly, and I only see very few of those occasionally, which are actually managing to deposit eggs which land in the pond. So, one reason why I find it strange that all the MEDAKA disappear, or most of the MEDAKA disappear quite quickly, because previously for some years in my subtropical climate I'd kept platies in the pond, small red platies, to eat the mosquitoes, and they survived and bred in reasonable numbers without any apparent predation by dragonfly larvae. So this time I've now decided that probably the MEDAKA were easy prey for dragonfly larvae because the pond previously was heavily planted. A lot of surface plants and then plants all tangled up on the bottom underwater, and dragonfly larvae tend to lie in wait in hiding places such as within a heavily planted areas to ambush and grab a fish as it swims by. So this time I've removed most of any potential hiding places in the pond, and I've cleared out all the plants except for a couple of small water lilies. I've also kept some 10 centimetre 4-inch long goldfish in the pond for several weeks now. I've hardly fed them, so I'm hoping that they will have been hungry enough to search out for any small dragonfly larvae that were still in the pond and eaten them, and hopefully they will have eaten any dragonfly eggs that have been deposited through the netting into the water. So looking very quiet now. I might feed them in a bit, but I haven't been feeding them very often because I really want to make them hungry, to scavenge around and see what there is to eat in the pond. So having got the pond ready for restocking, I've been breeding quite a lot of extra MEDAKA this breeding season. ready to restock the pond. This is some of them here, and here, and here, and here, and I'll empty out these 2 tubs. And also these two other tubs. I don't really want to keep them going through the summer, so I'll just sort out all the fish. The bigger ones I'll put in the pond, smaller ones I'll put in other tubs somewhere else. So I'll soon put a whole lot of MEDAKA into the pond, and I'll come back and have a look maybe tomorrow to see what it see how they've settled down. I don't know if anybody has noticed, I've got these rocks I've got are the ones that just sort of keep the netting taut across the pond. There's old bits of rock lying around. I'm getting old now, I can't bend down so often to move them if I want to take the netting off. So I put some drilled a few holes, put a loop of wire on the top, and if I want to move them, I've got a pole with a hook on, and I can just hook them up and move them away if I want to. One of my silly inventions, but keeps my mind active. And this is how the restocked pond looks now. Many of the MEDAKA I put in now juveniles, so they're not that big. I was hoping it would be bigger by now, but I thought I'd just put them in. I haven't counted, but my guess is there's about 100 in there. They seem to be surviving okay with the goldfish. It doesn't look that many, but you know, in this size pond, you spread the MEDAKA out over the whole area, it's not going to look that crowded. Now, the last time I set up the pond as a MEDAKA pond about a year ago, I thought I would probably aim for about 250 MEDAKA, which may be reasonably self-sustaining from natural food sources such as infusoria, mosquito eggs, etc. This assessment was based on the pond having a capacity of 1,000 litres, and I think about 4 litres of water may support 1 MEDAKA in terms of a natural food source in a mature pond. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, but that seems to be what I read in 1 or 2 places. However, I'll probably provide supplementary food every now and again, particularly as the goldfish might need more food. So looking back at what I've been saying about MEDAKA didn't survive in the pond on 2 previous occasions. One thing I find difficult to understand is why did the small platies survive previously and the MEDAKA didn't? And my reasoning is that the platies always acted in a way of being much more cautious and wary of danger than the MEDAKA. The platies would only appear when food was available, and they were easily scared away by any movement, whereas ornamental MEDAKA are usually very tame, and very little seems to scare them. I mean, they don't seem at all scared of the goldfish, and they'll feed in the same areas, etc. So yeah, big fish don't scare them at all. In other words, so it appears, in other words, to me, that ornamental MEDAKA are quite stupid when it comes to having any sense of danger, and probably have lost their natural fear of predators because they're highly bred. So they're easy prey for dragonfly larvae. I'll sort of back up this theory by noting that the last time I put ornamental MEDAKA in the pond. I also included some of my wild type of MEDAKA strain, which are called Hainan MEDAKA. Now I've cleared all the plants out and starting all over again. I noticed at least some of these wild MEDAKA have survived okay. There are a few juveniles in there, so they must have bred in the pond, even with the dragonfly larvae around. Now it's not possible to see them in the video because they're still there. It's not possible to see them because their coloration camouflages with the background colour. And even though they were bred in captivity for several generations, they're still very cautious and wary of danger. So, you know, as I say, you won't see them. Very difficult to see. They'll change almost dark colour because of the background colour of the tub of the pond, and they'll hide away anyway if anybody's around. Okay, just to show, these are some the wild type MEDAKA, Hainan MEDAKA. They're looking reasonably light colour at the moment because they camouflage against the light colour of the bowl they're in. If in the pond, they're darker because the pond liner is black. Well, so these are very wary, very cautious fish, and usually they stay down the bottom of a tub. You don't often see them coming to the surface in the same way that the ornamental MEDAKA do. So now all the MEDAKA I've added look happy. I've left the 4-inch goldfish in the pond because I know from previous experience of that size they coexist okay with MEDAKA. And I'm hoping that with minimal planting in the pond, any dragonfly eggs that land on the water surface will quickly be seen and eaten by the goldfish, and even the adult MEDAKA. The dragonfly eggs are very small. The adult MEDAKA can eat them, and so hopefully they'll see them as soon as they land on the water surface, and they'll be eaten. The eggs will be eaten, and or with minimal hiding places, any dragonfly larvae that may hatch out will be eaten by the goldfish when they're still small. Now, the only problem with minimal planting is unlikely that the MEDAKA will successfully breed in the pond. However, I can continue to breed fish in the tubs and chop up the numbers in the pond when necessary. Maybe get the autumn breeding season, I'll try and breed another 100 and see if I can get the numbers in the pond up towards 200. Now, my analysis that I've made in setting up this MEDAKA pond again may be totally wrong, and the MEDAKA maybe have not survived previously for other reasons rather than dragonfly larvae, maybe poor quality, etc., etc. But I've had fish in this pond for many years without this sort of problem, and with the aeration and filtration I get from the sponge filters and the trickle filter, there shouldn't be water quality problems. But I can't think of any other reasons why the MEDAKA don't survive very well. So hopefully I've come up with a solution that will now allow my MEDAKA pond to thrive. I'll have to wait and see what happens. Okay.